We're glad you're with us here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for downloading the podcast and checking this out on YouTube as well, youtube.com. Look for the Under the Hood podcast. Like, share, and subscribe what we do here. Cannot wait for college football tonight. The college football playoff continues. We got our Final Four, and we've got our guy, Buck. It is Charles Arbuckle, your favorite UCLA Bruin, ESPN College Football Analyst, with us here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Buck, as always, appreciate the time.
Hey, man, good to be here. Finally, we're able to talk about some football games, right?
Oh, and by the way, because you dabble in the National Football League as well, doing some trips overseas and doing games in the NFL, here in Chicago, we're on fire here because Bears-Packers 3, man.
I know.
This city's on fire, man. What do you think? Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, and then an opportunity to take on your rival in this big matchup on Saturday night. What do you think?
Well, I got to call the one when they were in Green Bay, when you guys lost to him, when Caleb had all his weapons and, Micah Parsons was still able to play. Now that he's not there, that makes a difference. And, I really think Caleb is starting to figure out how to make things happen. He still will do some things off script, but you almost need to have him like a three-point shooter where there's going to be some bad shots, but he's going to take some good shots. And I've known Eric Bieniemy since we were 17, 18 years old, so I got a chance to spend some time with him before the game. And the one thing he had to remind me, he said, Buck, some of these things that he's doing, this is his first time. He's really learning. He said he's going to be a really good leader. He said, my experience with Patrick Mahomes, I see a similar trajectory. And I said, man, that's a big order. He said, he's got all the tools. We just have to help him get there. So I think the folks in Chicago are going to be real excited for this game because there's an opportunity to beat your rival and do it in a way that you haven't been able to do it in a number of years. And I like this when good teams, it's almost like Miami being good again in the college football ranks. Whether you love or hate the Bears or Packers or that, those two teams, when they're good, make the NFL good. Now that Detroit is playing well, that's something about that, that NFC North division where it's just, black and blue, all the things you always heard about it. But it's good to see those two teams battling it out in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is going to be so much fun on Saturday, and we can't wait for it. I am looking forward to tonight, though, with the college football playoff. I just want to get your thoughts. We have not spoken in a while about college football, so I want to get your thoughts about the playoffs so far and leading into the the end of the regular season and the playoffs. What do you think of everything you've seen up to this point?
Well, I think what you're finally starting to see, and we've talked a little bit about it throughout the year, the big bad SEC is not always as bad when they get to this level when everybody can play on an even field. And meaning that the dollars have made it a lot better when you can go out and get a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, who's a backup at Ole Miss and still able to win the job. Or you can go get a Carson Beck from a Georgia. And even though Carson hasn't played his best ball, the last 5 games he's really played well. And you look around college football and teams that now can get players in the right spot and make things happen. Fernando Mendoza, when he went to IU, I kept telling the people in Indiana, this guy's going to be Mendoza. Who is this guy? I said, I saw him at Cal. He didn't have a lot of weapons, but he was tough as nails and he could play. You could see what he was going to be able to do. Dante Moore, another one. I really wish UCLA would have treated him better and Chip and that staff would have done a better job with him, but he's in a much better place, and Oregon is finally seeing the fruits of that labor. So I think those are the things that stand out to me. The other thing is, at this time of the year, it's always about the O-line and D-line. I don't care how good these skill guys are. It's about the O-line for IU, their D-line, the offense and defensive line for Miami. Ole Miss's offense and defensive line have started to really play well. And you can look at the stats and they'll fool you because sometimes earlier in the year, teams haven't been playing to that level. But then when you see an Oregon team that just shuts out Texas Tech because their defensive line steps to the forefront, those are the things that I look at that stand out to me when I look at this college football playoff.
Yeah, so what's happening at Ole Miss is interesting. It wouldn't be college football without a little drama, right? And so that's what we're getting. The players, to me, and the rest of the staff, they got something to play for, Buck. They got something to play for because they know the drama that Lane Kiffin has left behind. And so they could say, hey, let's rally. Whoever's left
Mhm.
here, we're going to do our best. What do you think of that whole story of Ole Miss? Because it's very rare what's happening right now.
Ole Miss did everything you could possibly do to appease Lane Kiffin. Everything. They gave him the house, the boat, the car. They sold his house. They gave him whatever he wanted. And for him to make us think that he was going to go and coach this team and then still build the LSU team is such a crock. And I'm glad that Trinidad Chambliss has said, you know what, I kind of like it here. I'm going to stay here. They gave me a chance. I came from Division II at Fair State. These are the biggest crowds I've ever played in front of. The people in the Grove have treated me well. Kewan Lacey and Chambliss has to get that waiver done, but I hope that happens for him so he gets that 6 years since he had a medical. Kewan Lacey, the same thing. And even with the coaches that he said, I'm going to let you coach, but no, I want to take you back. It's all about Lane. It's always been about Lane. And I don't care what people say. I think he's a great coach. But Pete Golden has won 2 college football playoff games with the team that Lane built. But I don't think Lane seriously thought once he left, this team will stay together. And I like what they're doing now. And it's only going to – if they win this next game and get to the final, that is going to be something to behold because Ole Miss is in rare territory right now. They are in a place where – they just you can see it. I know Richard Cross real well. We've done some games together, and he just the things that are going on there with this team. I can't be happier and more excited for a fan base than this because of how they were treated by a guy like Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, I never thought that Lane was worth all this trouble, but apparently he is. Let's do. Pretty girl, but do you really want to marry her? I mean, that's a choice for a guy, right? You got to decide.
Yeah.
Worth the trouble? Is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to Lane Kiffin? I love this Ole Miss story, and it's great for Coach Golding because he could be a head coach someplace and could be considered a head coach someplace just based on how he handles the media so well, saying it's not about the past, it's about who we have in the room right now. Man, that resonates, I'm sure, to a lot of athletic directors.
Well, and I think it's resonated there. They're going to make him the guy, and it's given him the opportunity to be the guy at Ole Miss. And I think for them, you find a guy like this, you make him the head coach, and then you run with it because that's why these guys are staying there. That's why they're playing so hard for him. And I think also change management is the hardest thing to do. I've been in business. I've been in the pharma business, biotech business for 25, going on 27 years. And when you have change, man, it's the hardest thing to get a group of people to move in the right direction. I don't think people realize what he's doing there. And I don't think they understand when you have to take over a team and get in front of the room and help them understand, hey, I'm going to help you the best I can. We're going to do the best that we can here. And a lot of those guys came in and were Lane's guys, but he's been able to do it. And I think part of it too is all of the coaches that are left now have a thread to Nick Saban. They've all taken what Nick gave them. Like whenever I go in the coaches' offices and I ask them, well, how many books do you have of all the things that you've been taking note of until you got to this place? Don Capers was notorious. He said he had so many books and notes and everything that his wife would get upset with him. So he kept them at the office, kept them at home. But most coaches have that. They may have it on the iPad now, maybe technology. But each of these coaches have taken from Nick Saban something to help them understand what to do in these situations. And they probably still call on Nick Saban at this time when they're getting this late into the game and when they're starting to play these games. And I think that's that gives me a good idea that all of them are taking their imprint on these teams. And that's why we're seeing these 4 teams play late into the year and while they're playing for a national championship.
So, Buck, which way do you lean with that Ole Miss matchup against Miami? Which lean?
I've been going to the Waffle House on this one, man, and I ain't trying to start a fight with them people in there, right? I'm going in there and I know what I want, so I'm not going to start a fight. If the food ain't good, I'm going to tell them, hey, can you just do this for me? I'm not going to fight them because they look like they'll all attack you. So last night I was saying Ole Miss. Today I really think Miami only because of that defensive line. And the X factor to me, Miami loses if they ask Carson Beck to throw 25 times or more, I think, in this game. I don't think he'll have to. I think they can run the football because as good as that D-line for Ole Miss has been, I still think Mark Fletcher is a phenomenal guy in the run game. He's going to have some challenges with Eccles up front, Harris, some of those guys that they have up front that are playing really well. But I just think that Miami defensive line, man, the way they get after the quarterback, and I also think they'll rush with their hair on fire, but they'll have one or two guys spying Trinidad Chambliss so he can't run as free. And I think Miami is a little bit more athletic in their second level and third level. I'm giving a slight edge to Miami on that one.
And here in the Midwest, America's team is Indiana all of a sudden. Yeah. We had Tom Thayer, by the way, on a radio show on Cap and J Hood on ESPN Chicago. And Tom Thayer, former Bear, Super Bowl champion with the 85 team, he said, if I kind of think that Indiana could be able to win it all because he's down on his Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He's down on them. I said, you're not part of the collective? He says, hell no, I'm not giving them anything. So even Tom's giving up on Notre Dame and picking Indiana. So I want to get your thoughts about Indiana because, again, around here, America's team taking on Oregon again. And remember this last time two teams took on each other, Indiana went through Oregon on the road. So what about this matchup now?
It's hard to beat a team a second time. And I think with Oregon, the thing that worries me if I'm an Indiana fan, and I like Indiana a lot, having lived there for 12 years and played with the Colts, the problem is this Oregon defense is starting to play some really good football. Angale and the rest of those guys up front. That is what worries me. The thing that gives me reason to understand is that the way this Indiana offense and defensive line, man, they beat you up. And I don't think Cignetti is going to be in a position where he gets to this point and he wants to tell people to Google him with the national championship. I really do think Indiana wins this because of the way they can attack you with the three receivers. We talk a lot about Surratt and the other young men on the outside, but Charlie Becker is a guy that people don't pay a lot of attention to. And when they need to throw the ball, he seems to be like the Hunter Renfrow of those old Clemson teams to make plays for them. And I think that's where I worry for Oregon, because as good as Oregon is on defense, that's been their Achilles heel. And it's interesting. They're really good on defense, but Indiana seems to just be able to bludgeon people on their offense when they run the ball and they do all of those things. So I'm going to give the edge to Indiana. But if Dante Moore plays out of his mind, I wouldn't be shocked if we say Oregon wins this game.
Buck, lastly, and I appreciate your time. I saw what Jim Irsay's daughter, Miss Irsay, said in the press conference after the season ended for the Colts. It was pretty strong, strong. Probably the way Jim would have said it. Talking about how pissed off he was about the season, how changes are going to take place. Like, I don't know if you got a chance to see that, but I thought that she had some powerful comments about the state of the Colts.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch Carly and her sisters, Kaylin and watching them, because I remember them as young ladies. They were little girls when I was there. And to see them now to take over the helm, see some of Jim and each one of them, and to understand that, as passionate as Jim was about this football team, these three young ladies are as well. And I think the biggest thing with Shane and Chris Ballard, they're going to have to figure out a way to have at least 2 or 3 quarterbacks next year that can play, so in case anybody gets hurt. But you also have to improve on the defense and make sure that any free agents you bring in elevate your team. And I think that's the thing they haven't done as much in the past. Jermaine Pratt was a huge pickup. Think about if Jermaine Pratt doesn't come there, some of the things. So they got to be real cognizant of that. And then also if you lose Lou Anarumo, which looks like he's going to be leaving to take a head coaching job somewhere else, you got to replace him. But think about it, Jay Hood. They lost DeForest Buckner, Charvarius Ward on the defensive side, and Sauce Gardner couldn't play but 2 out of the 4 or 5 games he was there. So when you lose 3 potential Pro Bowl type guys, your team changes dramatically. And then to also lose Daniel Jones the way they did. I saw Daniel at the last game. I was calling the Colts and Texans. He's going to be fine. I think he'll be back, and I think that's a good thing for this Colts organization. And Riley Leonard, a Notre Dame guy, as well as Duke, is playing out of his mind. So if you can have those two, I think the Anthony Richardson experience is done. And I think they're going to have to figure out ways to get other people and make sure through the free agency, because they gave up so much to get Sauce Gardner, to get some guys that can help them for next year and make a run.
As long as they can find a quarterback that does not tap out and need some time to rest in the middle, I think they'll be up.
The worst thing for them was when he didn't know the playbook. Tapping out was bad, but when you don't know the playbook, you can't be at that level and not do that. And I think that's the thing, Anthony. I hope he's learned from that. I just don't think they're going to give him another opportunity because they see so much value in some of the other guys that they have now.
Buck, I'm glad we were able to connect. I just want to get your thoughts as we're at the Final Four. So thanks so much for joining me, man, as always.
Yeah, if Indiana if Indiana and Miami get there, I'm gonna go Indiana.
Got you down now.
I know. I've been picking them since the beginning. Now Cignetti, I'm just, it's something about that team. So you can hold me to it.
It's being recorded, Buck. This is gonna come back at you, just so you know.
It always does. It always does.
Charles,
all right, man. Take care.
Good to hear from Charles Arbuckle from Westwood One, as well as ESPN does college football, and great to get his perspective on a lot of things with the Bears and the Packers and his old team, the Colts, and of course college football, because we love his college football conversation. All right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and comment to this video and all the videos that we have here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. We'll talk to you next time. Keep it locked right here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. So long, everybody.